Hello everyone, my name is Conrad on behalf of Camera Stuff, and today in the Limelight we are joined by Ashley. Ashley, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastically well, thank you. So thank you for joining us. So we're just going to wait until more people join. So I'm just going to give it a minute or two. All
Cool.
right. So in the meantime, I'm just going to quickly show people what you are capable of. So I have a little slideshow here. And we're going to talk about all of these images in due time. But yeah, this is your work, and I must say it's incredible. It's quite magical what you're capable of.
Thank you.
No, it's a pleasure from my side. So I see more people joining. I just want to quickly go through the slide just to show people, as I said, what you can do, and what you can do is absolutely terrific. All right, so everybody in Facebook and YouTube land, if you have any questions to ask, please do so in the comments section, and yeah, we'll tackle it as we go along. All right, so for our first section of this interview, I'm just going to ask Ashley a couple of questions, and then we're going to get to the images, and we're going to explore how the images were created and whatnot. All right, Ashley, you ready?
I believe so.
Okay, good. All right, so first question from my side is, where do you get your inspiration from?
so my inspiration, it's like I get my inspiration pretty much from anywhere and everywhere and nowhere. I think yeah, it sounds funny, but like I grew up with art. My mom's an artist, so I've been poring over art books before I could even read. So I think I've always been susceptible to like getting inspiration. But I mean, aside from obviously artists and art movements, I get a lot of my inspiration from other photographers' work again, and fashion
Hmm.
editorials, and sometimes just by looking at my window and seeing how the light's falling in my garden, or fashion like itself. Like I will see a dress and fall in love with the dress and be like, okay, like if it's local at least, like how can I
Uh-huh.
photograph that dress? And other times it's the model. Like I see a model's face, I'm like, I need you in my portfolio, and then I just take it from there. So, yeah, I just, I think the key to being inspired really is just to always be open to it and just kind of
Hmm.
see everything as a point of inspiration. So yeah.
Okay. Do you have like a hub or something where you collect all of your inspirations? So like a
Oh,
sketchbook or Pinterest or anything of the sorts?
I am a Pinterest hoarder. Like
Okay.
sadly, I mean, I have boards that have thousands, and I wish I was joking,
Mhm.
thousands of pins. And the funny thing is that I have these pins, but I rarely ever look back at them. Like I will just
Mhm.
go into Pinterest one day with an idea, and then you kind of fall down that rabbit hole, and you start saving, saving, saving. So these images are always at the back of my head somewhere because you know you
Yes.
store them somewhere there. So yeah, I mean Pinterest is my like I suppose main source of storing because it's just better. Because back
Hmm.
in the day, it used to be tear sheets. It used to be
Yes.
cutting out stuff of magazines, but that's yeah it takes up a lot of space, and you lose it half the time. It gets damaged. Um, so yeah, there's that. And then I also have a little black book that I don't carry with me anymore because I carried it around so much that it's kind of falling apart. But it's my little black book of ideas. So anytime I would get an idea, I would just quickly jot this down. It doesn't matter how bad it was, I just jot this idea down. But then, with phones, you get apps. So there's this app called Evernote. So I do that in Evernote now. So yeah, that's usually where I keep all my inspiration.
That's wonderful for technology. Yeah, I remember a long time ago when I started out, I used to tear off little pages from magazines and whatnot. And I recently found that flip file. It was quite
Yeah,
comical to see how
I
I
know.
went about things many years ago.
Yeah, it's funny you see like 'cause the same thing happened to me because I did a spring clean and I found one folder of like inspiration, and I'm looking at this and I'm trying to remember half the time like what exactly was it on this page that inspired me, because I don't like
Mm,
anything I see anymore because your tastes
yes.
evolve. So yeah, I
Mm,
mean this is like beginning stages of my career. Also, different era for fashion. So of course the fashion that you like then is not
hmm.
necessarily going to be the same as you like now. So yeah, I mean it's interesting to see how your tastes evolve that way.
Yes, absolutely. Now, where we used to be and where we are going.
Yeah.
All right. So, next question from my side. What is your creative process like? How do you take an idea from concept to final product?
So my process is messy. Like I try to keep everything like I've got like a to-do list like on my phone when I have like an idea or whatever. But yeah, it can get very messy at times. Like I lose track. But basically, the process is obviously to start with an idea. And like I said, that idea could be because you saw a model, because you saw a dress, or you just saw something that inspired this idea. So you have your idea, and the next thing I would do is create not even a full mood board yet. I would just go online and grab a couple of like inspiring sort of images, because I need to show the team that I'm going to put together the kind of idea that I'm going for. So then the next step is putting the team together. Step after that is the most difficult one, especially if it's collaborating. It's like trying to find a time where everyone is available at the same time. So finding a date and then getting like
herding cats, yes.
it's awful. Like it's fine if it's like a commercial shoot, but when you're doing like just like what you call a passion project or like a collaboration, getting everybody on the same day. I mean, sometimes you plan a shoot and it's 3 months down the line that you actually get to execute it. Which is fine if you're shooting in studio, but if you're shooting on location and you were hoping to shoot in some moody, like sort of winter setting, and then in Cape Town, you don't want to shoot in February, March when it's so freaking windy, and then it kind of messes around with that. But yeah, so you do the shoot, whether location or like studio, and then you come home and you upload the photos and you berate yourself for everything that you did wrong that day, and you fight your imposter syndrome. And then eventually you just go through like a culling process. I like to, for me, like less is more in terms of the amount of photos I end up with. I'm not the kind of person who does a shoot and then releases like 30 like odd photos or whatever. It's obviously different if it's a client shoot, but for like my personal work, I tend to opt a little bit more for anywhere between 5 and I would say 15 is pushing it. So I can have a shoot where I have 600 photos, which is rare. It just depends on how many outfits I'm shooting. But say I've shot like an editorial type vibe, I will bring that down to 15 of the best, and then even less after that. So yeah, and then it's just a matter of processing and Photoshop. And then Photoshop again, for my personal work at least, is another rabbit hole altogether, because I can spend hours and hours just with the color grading, and then I get a bee in my bonnet about something because I have this whole, what if I tried this? And then I try it, and then I'll spend a day trying this, and then at the end of it I don't like it, and then I'm like, I wouldn't say I wasted a day, it's never a waste, but like I've spent a whole day trying something, but if I didn't try I wouldn't have known. So yeah, it takes a while to edit my personal projects at least, but yeah, that's why I say my process is a bit messy at best, but it works. It works, yeah. So yeah.
So you say it's a little bit messy. I know many photographers who are, the more chaotic the environment is, but kind of the better they perform. Whereas myself, I like to be as meticulous as possible. But I think when you are a little bit too specific, too meticulous, and the anxiety just builds up and builds up. So
Yes.
do you depend on the chaos a little bit? Do you allow things just to happen on a day?
I do. I thrive on chaos. I do. Yeah, because I mean, also I don't like over planning a shoot. So I will have my concept, I'll have my mood board, but especially if it's a collaboration and I have other people, other creatives on board, then I want to give them a say in everything too. So I will send them the references, like my makeup artist or whatever, and I'll be like, this is the kind of look I'm going for. Can you interpret this in your own vision? Or like a style, if I can't source the wardrobe myself, like same with the stylist, I'd be like, what can you bring with this? And we'll have like a WhatsApp group and we'll go back and forth with ideas and references and stuff just to like refine the idea. But also knowing full and well that on the day, what's that? How does that phrase go? All the best laid plans go right. It might not work out. You just kind of have to wing it in a sense. So you have a basic plan, but like it's a very organic process. Like I call it following the muse. So you don't force an idea. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. You have to pivot and change it and work around it to make something else again. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the more you do it, the more second nature it becomes. So
Yes,
practice and getting yourself out there absolutely is necessary.
Yeah.
All right. So, question now pertaining to gear. Are you gear fussy, or what do you have?
I'm not. No, I'm a Canon girl, but that's just because I started with Canon. My very first camera was a 350D, and I was so proud of it. I still have it. And then I upgraded to a 5D Classic, which I still use for my personal work. And then I have a Mark III that I use for more commercial side of things. And then I shoot everything on a 50 or 85 prime. I love prime lenses. Zooms are
Mhm.
cool, but I just find, especially with like, because I currently have a borrowed 24 to 105, and I've found that when I shoot with it, I'm still shooting within the range of 50 and 85. Like
Yes.
it's like natural.
Mm.
So I think my next lens purchase would probably be a 70 to 200 because I that's a really nice focal length to like shoot at. But yeah, I mean, those are. Oh, and the 100. If I can get my hands on a 100 mil prime as well, just so beautiful for like beauty shots. But yeah, I mean, that's basic gear. And then of course I have my lighting. I use Elinchrom. I've actually got my one Elinchrom here that's lighting up my room.
Ah,
And
nice.
yeah, yeah, that's it. Like very, I don't overcomplicate it. Like I also
Mm.
I don't want to carry heavy gear everywhere all the time. Um, yeah, I want to the less is more approach again with gear as well. So, yeah.
All right, perfect. All
Mhm.
right, so we had a look at some of your images. Question I want to ask is, how do you go about collecting all of this incredible wardrobe that you have? Not just the
I love it.
wardrobe, but props and whatnot. And yeah, how do you
Yeah,
bring everything together? Where are your sources and whatnot?
I love that you use the word collected because I wish I collected them. Because if I owned any of the dresses that I shot, I would literally go to the grocery store in them like on a daily basis. Um, no, I mean, the thing with the wardrobe is it start like when I started my career, obviously like I didn't have that many like contacts and you have to like build your portfolio. So a lot of the wardrobe that I use now is because I've met and maintained good contact with local designers again. But also it's integral that if you don't have any fashion sense yourself, which I'm kind of like that myself, it helps to have a stylist. So if you have a stylist that understands your vision, then then that's how like they're the ones that can source your wardrobe. Because I mean, a lot of the times my ideas, I see something I absolutely love, but the kind of wardrobe that's shown in my reference is not really available in South Africa. So I have to find a stylist that can either source it or source a designer that can maybe make something for me. Which one of the images you'll see now actually that did actually happen. Like a stylist actually got a local designer to make exactly what I wanted, and I was just like, what? But yeah, no, the wardrobe, it's I try to use local wherever I can because I think we have the most amazing
Mhm.
designers here, and they need to be showcased. So yeah.
All right, perfect. Yeah, it's always useful to have these contacts available. Yeah, as photographers, we try to do everything all at once, but gosh, there are better people who can handle all of this as well. All right, so everybody, just as a reminder, if you have any questions to ask Ashley, please do so, and we'll go through all of the questions as we go along. Okay, so we're just going to go through some of your images. Just going to pop them up here. All right, so what you're going to do is just kind of give us an idea as to how you went about creating all of these images.
A
So
little
we're going to start
walkthrough.
off with this one. Yeah, a little
Um,
walkthrough, yes.
a little walkthrough. So this is actually one of my favorite sort of unplanned images. I'm going to say that about all of them though, because a lot of them are actually when I say unplanned, it's like I have, like I said, I start with a basic idea, then it ends up being something else. So this is those bottle brush bushes or whatever that I saw behind the bus stop as the bus was. I was on the bus one day driving, and I saw this bottle brush, and I'm like, and it was like beautiful and full bloom, and I'm like, I need to shoot something in front of it or someone in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just gathered Vicky, our model, and our makeup artist Melise. And Melise is also a stylist, so she brought some like wardrobe options. This dress was from Judith Atelier. She it's one of her like very very early designs, and like she does like her stuff now is like a lot more elaborate and arty. But this is such a simple, beautiful red lacy dress. I thought it's perfect for this. So yeah, so we just grabbed Vicky, we stuck her in the bush, and we put the hair up in there. Um, and then I had like the apple and the paintbrush. I didn't really at the time fully like not understand, but I didn't fully like know where I was going with it. It was kind of like a Adam and Eve kind of inspired thing, but also like the birth of creation and
Mm-hmm.
like all those like a lot of times my concepts will kind of like overlay quite a bit. So this is kind of where that was going. But it also evolved over time to be something a little bit along the lines of like the whole biblical story again of like Adam and Eve, of like
Uh-huh.
how Eve was the one that had not the poison apple, but like the fruit, the forbidden fruit, and now ever since then women have all been painted with the same brush. So it took on that meaning again at a later time. So yeah, I mean, this is all natural light as well, by the way. This is like the last light of day, just before the sun went down behind the hill. If you were to zoom in and look at her eyes, you can just see like catching that last bit of light. I mean, it was that perfect magical moment of lighting. And yeah, it's been one of my favorite images since. There's a lot of Photoshop work in this though, because as lush as the bush was, it wasn't that lush. So I did have to copy paste a lot of them. I mean, if you looked carefully with a keen eye and like really scrutinized it, you could pick up a lot of like duplicate brushes of the bottle
I haven't
brushes.
noticed, but now since you mention it, I can see one or two. But it's been done very
Yeah,
well. And something
it's a
I've
fun
enjoyed very
puzzle.
much would be. Oh,
Mm.
sorry.
That's like it's like a fun puzzle to like figure out like which
Yes.
ones are like duplicates.
Now, something I've enjoyed very much here would be the complementary colors between the greens and the reds.
Yeah,
Very
that's
much enjoyed that.
something also just because I mean I studied fine art, and like I said, I grew up with it,
Mhm.
so that's also something that just is kind of automatic at times as well. Like I don't, it's not always planned. Like it's inbred, if you will, to like do complementary colors. So because I find sometimes as well if I try too much to plan that, then it just gets a bit messy. So yeah, I think it's just like I said, a natural thing for me to do complementary colors.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the more you get into it, the more second nature it becomes.
Yeah, pretty
Now,
much.
it's also from my side, the complementary colors thing is just my eyes just default to it.
Mm.
Always ensured that I have some color playing in my
That's the thing.
images.
That, like I said, the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature, and you just know it, and you just
Hmm.
immediately your eyes just immediately get drawn to it, and you just know, like practice makes perfect, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So this image. So first
Yes.
question I want to ask you: where do you find the elements like the flowers and the bees and whatnot? And
So the with my flower portraits, most of the flowers and the insects come from, and I'm probably going to butcher this, the Rijksmuseum in Netherlands.
hmm,
But a lot of museums actually have this thing where you can go onto their website and you can like log in and you can download high resolution paintings and
oh wow,
artifacts and
okay,
whatnot of like a large majority of the collection, not all of it, because a lot of it is copyright, but this is like free. So it's meant for designers and artists to use. Like I see a lot of the flowers I've downloaded in the past. Like I'll walk into a shop and I'll see it on a pillow, or like it's like now wallpaper or something. So they have
okay,
that. So I just tend to lean the most towards the Rijksmuseum because they have so many beautiful flower still lifes. And yeah, so that's where I get most of that. I can't remember this exact one though, where I found it. Um, but I call this image in general, I jokingly refer to it as my Mona Lisa, um, because it is small. Because if you go to you always hear people go to the Louvre and then they're disappointed at the size of the Mona Lisa because everybody just
hmm,
imagines it to be bigger. Then you get there and it's like A4 or something. Now this one is similar to that because this image was shot with continuous light, and my
okay,
settings. I don't know what is wrong with me. Like every now and then, like you just not paying. You just get so excited you don't pay attention to like what's actually happening in your camera. So this isn't like 100% in focus, and neither are the flowers because the flowers was a like a low resolution image, and it's
hmm,
like the best one I could source. So to print this, I can't print it really big, but it's one of my favorites. It got into the top 50 of Vogue Italia's Photo Vogue. They had this, was it
Mhm.
2018? A new Renaissance was their theme, and it made the top 50. And it's just, yeah, it's just one of my
Oh,
more
wow.
popular. Yeah, I know. It's like, I'm like, I finally made Vogue. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's one of my personal favorite images. That, like I said, it's disappointing that I can't print it as big as I'd want to, but that also kind of it makes it a bit more special somehow. It's just it's my little piece, yeah.
All right, so go through the color grading here. I see all the lovely blues and the highlights. Now my eyes, also, I'm also very fussed with the color grading and whatnot. So, like, how do you balance the color grading? What is your process there like?
So this one was like fully experimental. Like anybody who knows the work of Tretyakov will see that in the green highlights of his skin, or the greeny blue highlights. I absolutely love that about his work. Like I love how he uses color in his work. So I was sort of like I wanted to try and emulate that in this piece. It wasn't easy. I struggled a bit. So there's like multiple layers of trying to get it to that point. And then, yeah, like it's also that green and red complementary sort of like
Hmm.
colors again. And obviously she's got the warm tones in her skin plus that greeny blue highlight. It just kind of just all came together that way. But yeah,
No,
it's
it's absolutely
it's
stunning.
it's originally a Tretyakov inspired kind of take on my flower portraits.
On that note, how important is it to study the masters?
I don't know. I just I just obviously because I grew up with art is all I knew. Like I love art and like I would want everybody to study the masters. But I think yeah, I think if you want to really learn about like lighting and even just like color theory, then studying the old masters can be like really helpful with that because they're the masters for a reason, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, I, I would say like you can study color theory and you can study lighting, but it just helps to have visual reference. And yeah, like the old masters, because they didn't have artificial lighting, they used natural
Uh-huh.
lighting, which adds that little extra bit of element of like interest. So yeah.
All right, good answer. All right, talk us through this image.
So this image, also one of my favorites. This one, I was you'll see also there's sometimes like color themes that I like, you know how Picasso had his blue period and his red period. I joke that I go through those sort of things myself, although I've never quite had a blue period. I'm waiting for the blue period. It's coming. I want those cooler tones. I'm trying so hard to make a cold image, but I keep leaning towards the warm stuff every time. But yeah, so this was well, what year are we? 22. Yeah, sorry. Where are we?
Oh yeah,
So
COVID has disorientated the
oh
years and
my god,
whatnot. We can't keep up.
it's thrown me off so badly. So last year, Ellen Crom sent their newest light. It's the Ellen Crom one. It's the one that's busy lighting here again. To a couple of
Mhm.
photographers around the world. So myself and my friend SJ van Sale were the two people in South Africa that got it. And we were to create like photos with this light for their launch. So this was part of that shoot. And yeah, it's actually a two light setup because I wanted like I needed like a full length sort of like vibe. So it would have been fine just for like this one image, but like the later one, the final image that I used for the launch, I actually had a full length photo of her, which I stuck in a bell jar in Photoshop. So that was my final image. So these were just a couple of in-betweeners because I also needed stuff for her portfolio again. And I also just absolutely loved what my stylist did on this. So Zoe's wearing Stephen Van Eden, or Van Eden, Afrikaans. um, another favorite local designer of mine. And Tegelin Markham was the stylist on this, and she just nailed this. Like I was just, it was just such an exciting shoot because Jean-Irene did the makeup, Jean-Irene Barnard, and the hair, and she just did it perfectly. And the thing is, I had an issue that I had to run back home to go fetch something that I didn't bring for the shoot. And so I had to leave the team. And you don't always want to do that because you want, like, you need to be there to communicate and say, okay, I need you to do this, maybe change that up a bit. And you were sitting in traffic because like the studio's in Milton and I'm in Tableview, and there's like that horrible road, in between that's just like got forever traffic on it. So we took a while, but by the time we came back, like I came back to this, and I was just like, you guys,
Wow.
like,
Okay.
yeah,
All worth it then.
all worth it. I mean, and if you were to look at the bigger version of this, I mean, that ring she's wearing is like a dandelion or something, and it's beautiful. And those earrings are just like perfect, like just this little hints of green with the red is just, yeah. I mean, I was so proud of my team that day. Still am.
Yeah, so something I'm drawn to would be the position of the hands. Like often as portrait photographers, we don't know what to do with the hands. So how do you go about creating a natural pose with a model?
Yes, so hands are always tricky. I mean, even for like myself, I mean, you always end like, you tell people to put their hand by their face and they end up doing like the claw,
Yes.
So one of the, obviously Zoe is an extremely professional model, so it's easy. She's like, this is second nature to her. But when working with people who aren't used to being in front of the camera, or fresh faces, if you will, with them, like, when agencies send you new girls, I find one of the easiest things to do is, like, if they're a dancer, it helps a lot because you just tell them ballet hands and they immediately know what to do. But one of the tips that I like to give people is just to floppy wrist, like make a very floppy wrist, like do everything is in the wrist movement. So just keep your fingers, because if your fingers are relaxed, they kind of just fall kind of naturally anyway, and then you just kind of move things up, and then that's what you do to pose. And just gentle touching of like sort of areas. Sometimes you have to micromanage, but most of the time they seem to get it like quite easily. So just delicate sort of like ballet hands and a floppy wrist.
Perfect. I think that's awesome advice. Okay, so again, the flowers, loving the flowers.
Yeah.
So was this from the same website? I think, just sorry to interrupt you, we kind of need to drop that link in as well. So from the museum website, kind of need to find that link in so we can share it with the people out there.
Yeah, the Rijksmuseum, RIJKS Museum. It's the one in Netherlands. It's a big one there, their main one. Yeah, I believe this is also, because I mean, a lot of the flower paintings that I've sourced, I've repeated in other flower portraits. Because I mean, I cut out, it's all collages, so I cut out elements and I add, provided the painting is similar enough, because obviously a lot of the paintings will also have their own texture. So you and a different style. So they're similar in texture and similar in style. You can actually put them together. This is all from one painting though, and it worked really, really well for that. But I added the extra element of the nebula behind it, because that's the other thing. Like, you can go to NASA's website and you can download high resolution images of all their star and planet images. They have some copyrighted stuff, but other stuff is a free for all. And yeah, it just creates this beautiful like sparkle, sort of like soft, sort of misty effect. So I have two versions of this. I have it without, and then I have it with, and I haven't decided yet which one I like better. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just quickly trying to find that. I think I'm close.
This is also very.
I am still.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no, sorry. This is also very like simple sort of like setup with like. I just use this like a 60 centimeter octobox as the main light on the side, like the 45-degree angle, and then I'm standing in front of this huge silver reflective umbrella, which you can actually see reflected in her eye there. That's just like a very soft sort of fold, but it's not the main light, but it just created that beautiful catch light. And yeah, that's it. I had a white polyboard there initially, which I took away because I actually wanted a bit more shadow on her face there, because it just helps with the editing later.
Yes, it does.
To make it look a little bit more natural. So yeah.
All right. So I hope you don't mind. We have a lot of comments, no questions, but people just kind of praising your work. We have Natasha Boma, 3 hearts.
I see so many familiar names. Oh, thank you guys.
That's also 3 hearts. Brett Mortimer, 555 hearts as well. Megan McCabe, who I interviewed before you. Congrats, Ashley. That is beyond amazing. I think that's in reference to the Vogue
I think
feature you got.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
All right, so we have
Facebook
Mr.
user.
Facebook user saying beautiful. All right, so this is a reminder that if you're commenting on one of the Facebook groups, we can't see your name. So if you're on a Facebook group watching, just make sure to put your name in as well. We have Kerry Ann saying stunning work.
Carrie's
Kylie
actually
saying,
a high school colleague of mine.
okay, awesome.
And
Kylie
Kylie,
saying, yes, so amazing.
yeah, Kylie's sort of like Kylie and Kat are two of like my closest friends, actually. So thank you for being here.
It's awesome to have a support. And again, from Megan, Ashley, absolutely love your images. They are beyond incredible.
Thank
All
you.
right, so just had to get those in.
I'm getting blushing here, I think.
Okay, gosh. All right, let's quickly go to the next one then.
Yeah, so,
Okay, stunning
yeah.
outdoor photography. My question I want to ask,
Hmm.
do you do flashes outdoors or do you just depend on natural light?
I do a bit of both. It depends. This one I initially did try and have like an off-camera flash, but I didn't actually need it in the end. But I forgot to turn it off, and it was actually lying in the canola, like face up at some point. So there's some shots where you can
Oh,
actually just see this little ring of light, but it didn't affect the image. But like, yeah, I just forgot about it. But yeah, this was like also late afternoon, so this is all natural light. But this is also again a lot of Photoshop. Because obviously all those skirts, there's only so much. What you don't see in this image is the 5 people hiding in the canola. My skirt flippers. And yeah, so this is an example of what I said earlier about local designers and the perfect stylists and everything. So this vision, like when Jeannie approached me to create a shoot, the inspiration, I don't know why, like sometimes some people give off a color, and I don't mean like, oh, they have an aura. No, I just mean I look at someone and I just think this color would look really good on you. And
mhm.
for me, like it was initially with Jeannie, I was like, oh, like maybe like a peachy sort of orange. And then it just kind of like went into yellow. And I'm like, okay, now we got to do something yellow. It's got to be in the canola. I had a connection to a canola field, which is great because you don't want to like trespass. I mean, some of us do, but you don't want to.
That is
And yeah,
right.
no, we all above board here. Um, and yeah, and then when it came to the styling, I got my friend Tracy Lee Rosland on board, and I told her what I was looking for, and she just took it and she ran with it, and she brought me back this like absolutely stunning dress. So the girl who made the dress, the designer, is also named Ashley. Her designer, she's Ash Faye Designs. So Tracy went to her and said, listen, this is what we're going to do. She knows how much I love flowy skirts and movement in my images. So she's like, we need a lot of fabric for skirts, and then just so like something that would complement Jeannie's figure. So this is what they came up with, and it was just absolutely perfect for the day. So Jeannie is, you can't see her either, in her tackies, standing on a step ladder with everybody like throwing the skirts up around her. And yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun to create this, both on the day and in post-production later. So I did like a lot of swapping here. Like I added a few things to the crown. I did do a face swap, and I believe that's a different arm to the original as well. And then all the
Okay.
skirts. It's a very pieced together sort of puzzle, this one. But one of my
Interesting.
absolute favorite images that I created. Another one where I'm always proud of my teams, always. But yeah, this was also just one of those days. I was just like, you guys nailed this.
So how do you go about directing people on location? Do you just have a loud voice,
Oh, I do
scream
not have a
everybody in
laptop.
position? Okay,
No,
not okay.
my voice does not carry. Like I can't scream. It just does not carry. No, I've just been blessed with people that pay attention and listen, I suppose. And if they don't, then I just kind of like wave around and dance like an idiot until I get people's attention. And then I tell them what to do. But I mean, usually I'll direct them before and say, okay, this is what I
Hmm.
want. You're gonna pose like this. If it's like a single image like this was, like a still image. Say I want these sort of poses, and I want you guys to like throw the skirts or do this or do that or whatever. And then I just sit there and I take photos and I let them do their thing. Especially when it's an experienced model, you don't actually have to give them too much direction. You just tell them like what you want, like a basic idea of the kind of poses, and then you
Hmm.
just let them flow into their poses naturally. and then they give you more than you even wanted at the end. So
Okay,
everybody
awesome.
contributes in their own way. Like I said, I like an organic process. I don't want to force things too much because then you're disappointed. rather than
No, that's a very good point,
yeah,
actually. Yeah.
you rather want to be pleasantly surprised than horribly disappointed. Yeah.
All right. So talk us through this one.
Another proud team moment. So this was this was for Boca Fashion Film Festival. I can't remember when. The 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. We all met beforehand to like discuss like a very vague idea of what we wanted. And I had it somewhere. I've got it stored somewhere. But like we drew like stickman figures and stuff of like the kind of like what you call it, like layout that we wanted, like on a serviette, because we were at Cafe Caprice, I think. We shot this at Cafe Caprice. And yeah, then I had a basic idea of what we were going for, but I would say I kind of arrived a bit blind on this set because I was shooting with the Fujifilm GFX for Fujifilm, and they had this whole setup outside on the grass in front of like everyone. It was intimidating, it was stressful, and it was so bloody hot that day as well. But yeah, I mean, I can never say her surname, Robinheider. Like she did the body art, and she stuck all those little crystals on Bia, our model, and Candice Lee Landell did like the wig. She's absolutely crazy how like insanely talented how she does her hair like that. But the basic setup on the day, we had 3 little mirror balls, not little, like varying sizes, but nothing like this. So this again was another big Photoshop job for me because I dropped in a sky, I dropped in a bit of like sand at the bottom, and then I cut out and paste different sized and focal points for the mirror balls around her in post-production. There's about 10 of these, of just in like different poses and whatnot. But yeah, so it was a big team effort. It was shot in just about like the worst time of the day, between like 11 and 2 or something ridiculous. And by the end of it, Bia was just raining those crystals. They were just like melting off of her and falling everywhere. So we just okay, that's when we called it. That's when we knew this is the end of the shoot. So yeah, it was one of those chaos.
But I think the time of day worked, yeah.
It did, yeah. It was one of those chaos
with the shining crystals here, or the whatever you want to call it, just adds a lot of harshness and specularity to it. So I think the time of day worked in your favor here.
Definitely. I mean, they started that body makeup at like 5 or 6 in the morning. I arrived at 9, and they were still busy sticking stuff on her. So yeah, it was a big job. But I love how she made the fingernails with aloe.
I was going to point that out now. I'm crazy about that. That's so clever.
It's such a cool idea, and it's so clever. Yeah, love it.
Okay, let's talk about this image. Again, was it natural light, or did you incorporate the flash here again?
Natural light again. Where possible, I like to use natural light. It's not that I prefer it necessarily. I just like, I will try and emulate natural light even in studio. It's just a personal taste, I suppose. I don't like using too much like fake lighting, but like I don't like using lighting outdoors too much where you can see you've used lighting. Yes. It's fine for other people's work because it suits their style, but it doesn't suit my style. So if I use outdoor lighting, it will very much be to emulate what's already there, or like emphasize the like available light. So if it's overcast and we don't have the sun that I want, and it's beautiful and soft lighting, but like I'm not getting that contrast, I'll add a light. But this is all natural. It's a late afternoon, this very misty day on the beach. So I try to add a little bit more of the mist that was already there. And it's also composite because, someone throwing skirts. My friend Sean Shannon was on the side there, but he's flipping skirts. I always have to have a skirt flipper.
Skirt flippers again.
Yeah. So she's got the one that she's busy like maneuvering around herself, and then somebody's throwing the other one. And then I just put them all together in post again. But Evangeline was just also one of those people that I didn't have to direct. She just knew. I was just like blown away that I'm like, this like she knows what to do. Her body, she could just stand still and do absolutely nothing, and it's like the perfect pose. She's one of those.
Now, in terms of lighting, now when people use multiple flashes outdoors, it's just a little bit weird when you see multiple shadows on the ground. Like, we're not used to seeing that. This is not an alien planet with 4 or 5 suns. I think people can be a little bit, or go a little bit overboard with using the flashes outdoors. So yeah, just to complement the available light that is there if you want to go the flashes route, or to recreate ambient light, when the ambient light is, not always available.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Okay, in studio. So tell us about Granny here.
This is a very early shoot of mine, like early career shoot, and probably my most favorite shoot to date, based purely on just like how much like joy these two got out of it. I mean, I absolutely love it. There's another shot because it's Sylvia. Yeah, trying to remember who's there. Trudy. It's mirrored here, but it's Trudy and Sylvie. And there's an image of Trudy, the one that's doing this. But I also love that it didn't include here of her in an R2D2 dress, which is also like a favorite. But this is for a local magazine called Gachette. They don't think they're around anymore, but they were such a cool like local magazine. And the theme that month was eternal youth. And immediately I thought, okay, I'm going to photograph old people in young clothing. Like, it's a very like basic like idea. It's a very like, oh, okay, on the nose, but it works,
Yes.
So the lighting was bright and looks like this because I wasn't strong enough I was working for a stock photography company at the time, and I could get to use the studio on weekends if I needed to. And we had a huge how big was this? It's like a big, like one of the big octaboxes. I can't remember the size now. And it was on a C stand, but because whoever used it before me tightened that thing so darn tight, I couldn't, for the life of me, none of us could get this thing to like to loosen up. So I just kind of had it like this thing kind of just about like above me and behind me, and that was it. That was like a single light, and then a potty board to the end, and then it worked. So I'm like, you know what? This is like, I took a test shot and like, this is it. Like, this is going to be the lighting. But I love this shoot because afterwards I got so much like feedback from because they're grandkids. It was the makeup. It was a makeup artist's grandmother and her now husband's grandmother. So it's the two of them. And they kept coming back to me about like how both of them, when they were both still around, because Shane Sylvia passed away a couple of years ago now, but they kept talking about like the shoot. They kept like bragging to their family about it, and they would like be like, yeah, I was like at my age on a fashion shoot, and they they loved it so much, and they had so much fun, and I think that was my first taste of being a portrait photographer, because like I always did a lot of like fashion, and I did a lot of like beauty and everything, but this is still fashion, but it wasn't models that I was using, and getting that feedback from them was so rewarding. And I think it was from that point that I kind of like, I want to shoot more people, because I'm living off of this. This is like my drug. I need more of this. Like, just seeing how they beamed that day, and how well they took direction and just had fun with it. I mean, there was like one of the other images of the two of them. They were like cleaning the lipstick off their teeth. And I took the shot, and it was like the main image of like the editorial and everything. So it's just it's a lot of fun. So yeah, it's my favorite shoot because of the emotions involved in it more than anything else. So,
yeah, we definitely need this as photographers. That one shoot every now and then that provides that meaning and purpose, and we just learn how to have fun again.
Yeah.
All right, so another outdoor shoot. Want to tell us about this one?
This is another Fujifilm one. So this is another one of the GFX. They're medium format. Actually, it's a beautiful little camera. Well, I say little. It's a really lovely camera. This was shot at Cameraland on their balcony in town. I was doing the shoot indoors too, and I thought, like, they actually have a really nice outdoor area. So I grabbed Michelle and I just stuck her out there. And then the skirts are photoshopped. I did add extra of that because it was mostly in an effort to hide the nonsense that was happening off the balcony there, like the traffic and like it just wasn't
Yeah.
very pretty. So
Clever.
I added those extra skirts just to like hide that. This is also a face swap because I liked the pose, but her face wasn't in focus because the medium format was a bit tricky at the time to actually get like perfect focus. So I just took her face from another shot. And it was also one of my attempts at like trying to edit cooler again over warmer photos. So yeah, like it's very simplistic again, in like compared to what I usually do. But like, yeah, I try to like, shoot more simply because I can go a bit overboard. I always like it always starts like over the top and then I bring it down rather than build on it. So yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the simple ones are the better ones every now and then. Can't quite
Yeah.
explain it, but it's just going back to basics and going back to what got you going in the first place, instead of all of the elaborate stuff. That's great every now and then, but sometimes it's just nice to tone down a bit.
The less is more. Like it says more. You want to like add like this is it just all came together so nicely because you had the lace in the top. So Cindy Bam dress, another local designer, and then you have like the motors at the top there of like the architecture. And it just kind of like blends all nicely. And you got like it's not like as obvious, but the like sort of like was it like brick lace? What do you call that? But the pattern on the balcony's actual like thing there as well. So just created like enough texture without being like over the top and overbearing.
All right. Oh, lovely dress. Good location. Just keeps getting better and better. All right. So want to tell us about this one?
So another local designer, Renee Hayden, Renee H. Couture. I discovered her work on Instagram and I'm like, I need to shoot your dresses. They are amazing. And it turns out she, at the time, lived like down the road from me. I'm like, yes, okay, fantastic. Yeah, this is like a natural light shot. This is actually technically an outtake. Because she to me we this actually started as a sunrise shoot. And we had a couple of like dresses and whatnot, and I was actually shooting with SJ from Sale again because we often get together on shoots just to like portfolio building and just like to feed off of each other's sort of creativity. And this is one of those again. I'll never forgive him for getting me out of bed at 4 o'clock in the freaking morning. So not a morning person, but it was worth it. It was worth it. But yeah, so he's actually standing more facing her while I'm to the side. And then I was just like, we were both shooting, and then I just got her to like look at me and like smiled and like took the shot. And then out of all these, this look, then I just fell in love with this, and I knew the kind of like editing or color grading style I wanted to go in. It would have to be that like similar to the dress without overpowering it, and just it all came together like really nicely. She's also a fantastic model to work with, like, to me.
All right, awesome. All right, so a last image. Let's talk about this one.
So you know how I was saying earlier with the whole like you're in Photoshop and then you try the what if, and you go down the rabbit hole. This is one of those what if images because this was a very simple set against a beautiful warm brown backdrop. But something drew me in. I'm like, I want to like try something. I think it was the way her hand was over here, and I'm like, something needs to go, something needs to sit there. And like, okay, again, a bit on the nose of the butterfly, but I mean, butterflies are overused for a reason. They're pretty and they add those extra elements.
Yes.
So I have a lot of like stock stuff, like that I find online, like free used stock or whatever. So I have like a library on my computer of like saved stock images, and these butterflies are part of it. So I just had fun. I just went and I dropped in a different color background. I gave it some texture by adding the mist, and then I put like a couple of butterflies around it. So it's completely different to the rest of the set, but it's again like just a favorite image as a result. Again, another collab with SJ. Coincidentally, we did this together as well. So
okay.
Yeah. So we change elements up a bit when we shoot. Like I shot her with the crown, and he would like shoot her with like without it again. I do more portrait style. He'll do more like fashion style, just so we have like some like differences and whatnot. So, but it's a good way to build your portfolio, and also like I said, trying to find everybody having the same time. This helps. So.
All right. So I'm just on the Rijksmuseum. I'm gonna drop the URL in the comments. Okay, so if you're hunting for little elements to include in your projects, just check out the link I just dropped. Hopefully,
Yeah,
it's the right one.
yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, you just sign up, create an account, and then you can start saving all the images that you want to like download. You can download directly from there, or you can actually email them and request like a slightly higher resolution.
Okay.
But yeah, it depends on what you're using it for. So yeah, that's very cool.
All
And they're
right.
not the only, like I said, they're not the only site. I mean, I think Met does it too. All the big galleries, like if you go onto their websites, you'll find that you can actually download a lot of like good to high resolution images to use in your own art again.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. So I think afterwards we can drop all the links. So also the people that you've worked with. So the fashion designers, models, etc. And we can spread the love by just dropping links, and people can follow everyone as well. Okay. So all right, so everybody out there listening still have a fairly large group of people still watching. So if you have questions to ask Ashley, please do so. So we're kind of steering towards the end of our interview. I still have some questions to ask. But if you in Facebook or YouTube land, if you're interested or curious about something pertaining to Ashley's work, please do drop your questions in the comments. All right, so question from our side. What's your general impression of the South African industry, should I say, and are there any changes you'd like to see happen?
Um, yeah, so this, like, I give a lot of thought to this question because, like, I think for me, it's not just my general impression is actually not just the South African industry. It applies to the creative industry as a whole, like worldwide. And I feel it's, especially with the advent of digital photography over time, we don't value ourselves enough. And I think, like I said, it's a problem worldwide, but I find South Africans specifically are quite bad at that. We don't seem to value ourselves. We don't seem to value our work. And it creates like a feedback loop because we don't value ourselves. So people don't value us. And because people don't value us, we don't value ourselves. And it just, it's this constant, like, back and forth. And that I'd love to see that change. Like, I think we need to start stepping up and believing in ourselves a bit more and, know that we have value to offer. It's just, I think it's because everybody, we always encounter those one or two people who be like, oh, like, everybody's a photographer these days. You got a phone, you got a camera, and they think it's easy because they've never tried it. And so I think we need to seriously start stepping up and educating the non-photographers of the world about like what we do and why it's actually valuable and why we are like bring value. So
I think that's a very good point, very good answer. All right, so we have our first question from Kat. So this alluding to the previous image that we saw.
Oh
I
yeah,
can get that
one,
back up.
the one with Cherie,
Yes,
so that is, sorry, it was a bit of a
so do you use a smoke machine for the shot, or was it photoshopped in? So if not, do you use something like smoke machines, fog machines, maybe?
Well, that was photoshopped. That was I don't think that there's a panel that a friend of mine has called the infinite tools, and you get infinite texture panel and you get infinite color panel. I can't remember if I had infinite texture panel at the time, but you can get textures like this off of infinite texture panel. I think this is just one of the stock images I sourced somewhere. But yeah, ever since getting that texture panel, I must say I haven't needed to do that because it will generate stuff like this for me anyway. But yeah, that is photoshopped. I have tried to use a smoke machine in the past, but I haven't quite gotten. I haven't nailed it. I mean, it's very difficult to control. It kind of just. I've used color smoke bombs. I've used that a lot. But again, if you're shooting outdoors, especially, just expect disaster. the slightest, like if someone sneezes, it dissipates or goes in the wrong direction. And same with smoke machines. I've tried to use one on location before as well, and it was a windless day, but it just made everything too not so nice. So I rather add it in post until such a time that I can find a way to better control it.
Yeah, a friend of mine shoots the smoke beforehand, and he has a big collection of smoke element images and whatnot. So, as you say, it's perhaps easier just to add that into post afterwards.
Well, I think if there's an art
Right.
to it, I mean, if he's able to do it, he's obviously had practice and he's like, he knows how to manipulate it. I just haven't shot it like with it enough to know. It's the same with like horses. Like that's something it's a weird thing to say, but like that's something I'm still trying to like master, is being able to shoot with a horse. Because for some reason, every time I've ever shot with a horse, they've been spooked, or they just like not cooperating because they want to eat the whole time, because like maybe the person forgot to feed them beforehand. So now you've got a whole bunch of shots and there's no head because it's grazing. Yeah, so there's always something. So I mean, I wanna be able to do a shoot with a horse where I don't have to Photoshop the horse afterwards, because like the last one that I did was great, but I had to cut and paste the head from another one because that horse got spooked and it was just running circles around the model. So yeah, we did what we could. Yeah. Sorry.
No, but it sounds of it, having a lot of expertise in Photoshop is incredibly helpful, just to combine the images into a final result. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Yeah, it's part of the process.
Like you make a plan, make it work.
Yes. Question from Jason. Hello, Jason. Hope you're doing well. Is there a South African style of portrait photography? I think that's a very good question.
I'm gonna say no. I think it's all very individual. I think it's an individualistic thing. I mean, I wouldn't say it's specific to a country. I think it's just like specific to the person and their interests and their likes. Especially with South Africans, like we're quite exposed to like the international photography community, and we all have very different tastes. I think the only time a style of portrait photography fits a specific country, I would say, would be Eastern Europe. Not just any specific country, but the Eastern European photographers, just you can almost spot them a mile away. They all got that like sort of fantasy look, but it's all like similarly like photoshopped and everything. And it's just like, I don't know how they do half the stuff that they do sometimes. They are absolutely incredible and incredibly inspiring photography. But otherwise, I can't look at a photo and say, oh, that's definitely like South African, like portrait photography. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't
Yeah, I think in South Africa, we need to start embracing the harshness of the light. Kind of always steer towards the softbox look. So I think if we start embracing that typical South African hard light, 1 p.m., 2 p.m. look. I think in South Africa at the moment, people are very gear orientated, not quite creative orientated as of yet. So I think give it a year or two, maybe a little bit longer. But I think, as you said, people are starting to individualize. And I think sooner or later, we may see a South African style emerge from that as well.
Interesting that you note the lighting thing, because I know like I haven't been overseas a lot. I've literally been to the UK to visit my sister once, and the first thing I noticed when I was there, and I was there in their spring sort of summer, was how different the lighting is. Like they have a much softer, more like diffuse sort of light versus what we have here, and I was like, oh, okay. Like we have very harsh light.
No, it's an issue that, not an issue, wrong word to use, but you mentioning the Eastern Europeans. Now, people always talk about the light there just being great most of the time. So maybe as reason why their images tend to be more so.
I think it's because they don't have sun.
In that style.
That's
a good point, Jess. All right. Question from my side. Have you ever experienced quote unquote writer's block, and how do you get out of it? Perhaps a more so apt description is lighter's block. I don't know.
Lighter's block. I like that. Yes. I think every and any creative has and will experience this. If you haven't, then you're not there yet. So creative block or writer's block, I find personally for me, it usually happens when I'm burnt out. I've been overworking, I've been too many late nights, I've got too much on my plate, maybe there's like a personal matter that I'm dealing with at home. Like creative block comes from being too stressed, and then you're putting more stress on yourself and more pressure to be creative. And the more you push it, the more you actually push it away. Yes. You kind of have to just sit back and let it come to you. And the way to do that is to just actually sit down and do the work, so to speak. because I think also people put too much pressure on themselves these days, specifically because everybody thinks you have to create something that you have to share online, but they forget you don't have to share everything online. Create shit art, do it. Just you've got to like just like experiment and play around. Like sit with a notepad and pen and doodle, or just write, but just do it, because if you're going to wait for the motivation to come to you, it's not going to happen. Like motivation is created by doing something. And when you're doing it and you're in the act of doing it, you're like, oh, hang on, I'm actually onto something. And that's when the motivation comes in. So if you're struggling with any kind of creative or like writer's block, the best thing is to just sit down and do something. So long as you continue and don't just stop.
Yes.
You just got to, just the act of doing it is keeping those cogs going, basically. And just know that you don't have to put so much pressure on yourself. You don't have to share everything you create. I mean, heaven knows I have volumes of crap work in my folders, all experimental stuff, like things that I've tried and like didn't work, So yeah, that's how I would say you get out of it, but don't force it. Like if you're tired, take a break, have a rest. Your mental health is important, because if you're not like rested, you're not going to be able to think clearly and create. As a matter of fact, like people have to say, with the whole creating art from misery sort of thing, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think when you're in a better mental health situation, that's when you create the art. And it's usually in retrospect to what happened to you. So you can draw inspiration from dark times, but when you're in those dark times, you barely want to get out of bed. I mean, like I'm talking about people who suffer from like severe anxiety and depression and those like sort of things, So we create from a place of wholeness. So yeah, don't overwork yourself, don't force yourself, just be kind to yourself, essentially. And that's how you can get through mental block or writer's block.
Yeah, I know of a handful of photographers who spend most of their free photography time doing something completely different to what they're paid to do. So a lot of commercial photographers who spend a lot of time doing bird photography or macro photography. I think that's a very good way of kind of keeping the ticker going as far as the photography juices are concerned, but kind of away from the stress and stressful environment. Plus, you can learn something from different genres or fields of photography and apply it to your own paid work as well.
Exactly. I mean, I photograph chameleons in my garden with my phone. Anybody who's friends with me on Facebook knows, yeah. Just lots of chameleons. They're colorful.
No, that's a very good advice.
Yeah.
What? All right, so I think I messed up my sentence here. Okay, so what tips would you give new aspiring photographers out there?
So I have 3 tips that I would say. The first being, if you are planning to be more than a hobbyist photographer, so if you want to do this as a career, if you want to take this further, do yourself the favor of putting yourself through a business course of some sort. And if you can't afford to like actually go to a business school, there's so many resources online. Like LinkedIn has a couple of like free classes that they give. YouTube has. Just educate yourself from an early stage, because I know that when I started like this, it was like the furthest thing from my mind. And you suffer later when you start trying to build in that business, because you're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, that would be the first thing. The second thing I would say is build a community, like network. I mean, networking in any kind of career is actually always important, because I mean, you get a lot of jobs through referrals, and you meet a lot of people, and that's just how you grow. But it's also important that that network also becomes your community, because as much as supportive as your friends, like your high school friends and your partners and your family and everybody is, they don't get it in quite the same way that other photographers get it. So you need those people in your life and in your community, because sometimes you just want to rant and they will understand. Other times you need proper sound advice and they will be there for that. I've been very blessed with the people in my life who I get to call some of my best friends now, and they all happen to be photographers. So yeah, it's I think it's very important to have that sense of community, because you're going to need the support, because you might even have one of those annoying people in your life who just really don't get it and they frustrate you for whatever reason. So it's good to have that as a fallback. And then third would be make mistakes. Make mistakes all the time, experiment and make mistakes. That's the only way one really learns. Like, don't be afraid to make mistakes, basically. And same with like when you're doing any kind of, like when you're following tutorials online for like lighting and whatnot. Yes, that's great for like a starting point as a base, but then change things up, experiment and move things. Like, don't be afraid to do things wrong, because that's how you learn, that's how you develop your style. So yeah, that would be my 3 tips.
All right, awesome. Now, advice that you would have given yourself 10 years ago.
Easy. Go for a business course. That's it. Just
Right,
go do.
so rule number one.
Yeah. Simple thing. I think that would be the best piece of advice that I would have given myself, is that, cool, you've studied fine art and everything, and you know all of that kind of stuff, but now you want to make a career out of this. Like, it's all good and well building your portfolio, but you kind of need to build on like your business knowledge as well.
Yes.
So yeah, that would be that.
And to close off, what are your plans for the future?
So my goals are very long term, actually, and they've been around for a while. Like, I ultimately would love to have my own studio space. I have a fantastic space that I get to use and get to work in, but I would love something that I can actually call my own, because I want to be able to like decorate it and like, just have my own space, really. So like the place that I use at the moment has a closing time. I don't want to have a closing time. I want to go in there and like work through the night if I have to, just playing around with like lighting setups and whatnot. So that would be a future plan. And also one I've been working on for a while, ever since like my first flower portrait. I've now got like 20. I want to actually have an exhibition of my work. So yeah, that is also plan for the future. And travel. I want to take my work and travel a lot. Like not just for like leisure, but to actually like do work abroad. And then get published in Vogue Italia properly. Not just online. I want to be in the magazine. I want to be on the cover. So yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people out there would love to see that exhibition happen. And also, if you get to travel, you can maybe go to Eastern Europe as well and enjoy some of that soft light.
Yeah, I think I shall. Yeah.
All right, so just 3 comments I want to go through. All right, so Kat's saying you are spot on with the business course. I also wish I had done something like that early on in my photography career. And also from Timber saying, thank you for all of those advices.
It's a pleasure.
And Jock Ludovic saying, amazing, inspiring stuff, Ashley.
Thank you, Jock.
All right, so I don't know if there's something you want to add, but I think that's pretty much us. So unless everyone, maybe in Facebook or YouTube land, maybe want to ask something. So I'm just going to give it about a minute or so. So if you have questions, please do ask them now. But I think from my side, thank you so much for joining us for this interview. Very inspiring work, awesome answers that you provided. I'm inspired, and hopefully everyone who has watched also very inspired by your work.
Thank you. I hope I could inspire some people. Yeah, I hope I didn't talk too fast as well. It's a bad habit of mine. I get excited and then
it's all good.
You can if you're on YouTube, like you can play it back at like 1.5 times like slower. It's funny because like I'm actually the opposite. I'm the person who speeds up the YouTube videos to like 1.2 or like 1.5 times faster. That's just how I watch it.
No, I think you were perfect today. So thank you for joining us again. So I don't see any questions. So I think that's going to be a bye-bye from us. So again, thank you, Ashley, for joining. If you have, I'm going to drop Ashley's social media platforms in the comment section as well, so you can follow Ashley. But I think that's it from us. So thank you again for joining, everybody out there, and thank you to Ashley again. So hope you have a pleasant night further, and yeah, we'll see each other again. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.